Every single morning somewhere across this country, a gardener over 60 is out there pulling, yanking, and tossing away plants that a doctor, a herbalist, or a gourmet chef would absolutely love to get their hands on. And here is the wild part. Those plants are not rare. They are not growing deep in some forest or hiding behind a mountain. They are right there, in your yard. Maybe even the ones you just pulled out last Tuesday and threw in the bin. Now before you go out and pull another weed this week, stay with me. Because today we are going to walk through 6 plants that most people treat like enemies but that are actually closer to old friends. Plants that have been feeding families, healing the body, and enriching soil for hundreds of years. And the twist? You have probably walked past them 100 times without even knowing what you were looking at. No complicated gardening knowledge needed. No tools you don't already own. Just a new way of seeing what is already right there growing in your yard. Number 1. Chickweed. Chickweed is a low, spreading plant that hugs close to the ground. It has tiny white star-shaped flowers so small you almost have to bend down to notice them. It comes up in the cooler months, late fall, early spring, sometimes even during a mild winter. And it spreads fast. If you have seen a mat of soft green creeping across your garden bed before anything else even wakes up, that was probably chickweed saying good morning. Now here is where it gets interesting. Chickweed is edible. Every bit of it. The stems, the leaves, even those tiny little flowers. It has a mild, fresh flavor that sits somewhere between spinach and a garden pea. Gardeners and foragers who know about it will toss it straight into a salad, wilt it lightly in a pan with butter, or blend it into a green smoothie. It is tender, it is nutritious, and it is ready at a time of year when almost nothing else in your garden is giving you anything. But the reason it matters even more for us is what it does for the skin. Chickweed has been used for generations as a natural remedy for dry, itchy, irritated skin. People would bruise the fresh plant and lay it directly on a rash, a sunburn, or even eczema. And older herbal traditions leaned on it heavily for joint discomfort too, particularly as a poultice applied to swollen or stiff areas. Now we are not making medical claims here. But this is a plant with a long and very real history of being useful in ways far beyond what its humble appearance suggests. For you as a gardener over 60, there is one more reason to appreciate chickweed. It is what gardeners call a ground cover. When it grows in a bare patch, it keeps the soil from drying out, prevents erosion, and even fixes some nutrients back into the ground. So instead of fighting it with every fiber of your being, you can let it grow in open spaces through the cold months and simply chop it down and leave it in place as a mulch when spring arrives. The soil underneath will thank you. Chickweed is not a problem plant. It is an early season gift. Taste a little. Use it on your skin. Let it protect your soil. Then let it go when the warm weather comes. That is the gardener's way. Number 2. Clover. Remember as a child sitting in a field and looking for the 4-leaf kind? Remember running barefoot and suddenly stopping because there were bees? That was clover. And those bees? They were working overtime for a very good reason. Let's talk about what clover actually does for your garden, because it is doing more than you ever imagined. Clover is what is called a nitrogen fixer. The roots of clover form little partnerships with certain bacteria in the soil, and together they pull nitrogen straight out of the air and store it in the ground. Nitrogen is the thing that makes plants grow green and strong. It is what you buy in expensive bags at the garden center. And clover is making it for you. For free. Right now. When you mow clover down or let it die back naturally, all of that stored nitrogen releases into the soil. That feeds your vegetables, your flowers, your fruit trees. Everything nearby benefits. Old farmers knew this well. They would grow clover between rows of crops specifically to feed the soil without spending a single cent on fertilizer. Now the flowers. White clover and red clover both bloom in ways that are deeply attractive to pollinators. If you have fruit trees, berry bushes, or a vegetable garden, you need pollinators to visit. Letting a patch of clover bloom is like putting up a welcome sign for every bee and butterfly in the neighborhood. Your garden's productivity actually goes up because clover is blooming nearby. And for those of you who have been told clover is a problem in your lawn, here is the honest truth. Clover in a lawn is a sign of healthy, balanced soil. It was actually included in lawn seed mixes up until the 1950s, when chemical companies decided to sell herbicides and needed to reclassify it as a weed-to-move product. Before that, a clover-mixed lawn was the goal. Something to think about. The flowers are also edible, by the way. Mild and sweet. You can dry them and brew them as a light herbal tea that has long been associated with calming the body and supporting respiratory health in traditional herbal use. Let clover live in corners of your yard. Feeds your soil. It feeds your pollinators. And it connects you to something generations of farmers already understood. Number 3. Wood sorrel. Now here is the one that always surprises people the most. Wood sorrel. You have seen this plant. You may have even thought it was clover because it has that same 3-leaf look. But look closely and you will notice the difference. The leaves of wood sorrel are shaped like little hearts, and they often fold down in the afternoon, almost like the plant is closing its eyes for a rest. It also has small yellow, white, or pink flowers depending on the variety. The moment you taste a leaf of wood sorrel, you will never forget it. It is bright, citrusy, and tart, almost like a tiny burst of lemon or green apple right on your tongue. Children love it when they discover it. Foragers seek it out specifically for that flavor. That tartness comes from oxalic acid, which is the same compound you find in small amounts in spinach and rhubarb. In normal amounts, it is perfectly fine and actually pleasant. It has been used as a flavoring and a green vegetable across many cultures for a very long time. Native American communities used it. Early European settlers used it. Colonists going on long journeys would chew it as a food source. For the garden, wood sorrel is one of those plants that tends to grow in shady, slightly damp spots where other things struggle. That makes it useful as a low-maintenance ground cover in difficult areas. It spreads without you having to do anything. It fills gaps that would otherwise be bare dirt, catching every rain and drying out in every sun. And for the kitchen, the leaves add something genuinely special to a salad, a soup, or a plate. If you have grandchildren visiting, picking wood sorrel leaves together is a wonderful little nature lesson. Hand them a leaf, let them taste it and watch their face. That is a memory made. Wood sorrel is your garden's natural lemon. Taste it, use it, and let it fill your shady corners without complaint. Number 4. Lamb's quarters. Lamb's quarters grows upright, usually between 2 and 5 feet tall, though it can go higher if conditions are right. The leaves are a soft, dusty green with a powdery coating that makes them look almost frosted in the morning light. The edges are slightly scalloped and the young leaves near the top are often tinged with a reddish or purplish color. It shows up in rich garden soil, compost areas, vegetable beds, and disturbed ground. Basically, wherever there is good soil, Lamb's quarters finds it and sets up camp. Now here is why it matters so much. Lamb's quarters is more nutritious than spinach. That is not an exaggeration. It has higher levels of calcium, iron, and vitamins A, C, and K than most leafy greens you would find in a grocery store. Indigenous peoples across North America gathered and cooked it as a primary vegetable for centuries. It was a staple. Not a side note. A staple. The young leaves are tender enough to eat raw in a salad. The older leaves and stems are best cooked, and they wilt beautifully in a pan just like spinach. The flavor is mild and slightly earthy, pleasant and easy to incorporate into any dish that calls for greens. Some people blanch and freeze it for winter use. The seeds are also edible, and were ground into flour by many Native American communities. For the garden, Lamb's quarters is deeply beneficial to the soil. Its deep taproot breaks up compacted ground and pulls minerals from lower soil layers up toward the surface where other plants can access them. When you cut it down and leave it, those minerals become available through decomposition. It also produces prolific seeds that birds adore. So if you let even one plant go to seed in a quiet corner, you will bring wildlife into your yard without any effort at all. The only caution is the same as with spinach. If you have been told to watch your oxalate intake for kidney health, enjoy it in moderation and vary your greens. Otherwise, you are holding a nutritional goldmine that just showed up in your garden without a seed packet or a price tag. Lamb's quarters is one of the most giving plants in nature. Eat the young leaves. Cook the mature ones. Let one plant go to seed for the birds. Leave the roots in place when you are done to let the soil keep what they brought up. Number 5. Purslane. Purslane is a low-growing, fleshy-leafed plant with thick stems that lie flat along the ground and then curve upward at the tips. The leaves are small, oval, and succulent-looking, almost like tiny thick coins arranged along each stem. It comes up in the heat of summer, loves dry and even poor soil, and is one of the very few plants that thrives when everything else is struggling in the July or August heat. Here is the remarkable thing about purslane. It contains one of the highest concentrations of omega-3 fatty acids ever found in a leafy plant. Omega-3s are the healthy fats associated with heart health, brain function, and inflammation reduction. You usually hear about them in connection with salmon or fish oil capsules. But here is purslane, growing in your driveway cracks and your dry garden beds, carrying the same essential nutrient. In Mediterranean cuisine, purslane has been a beloved ingredient for generations. Greek cooks toss it in salads with tomato, olive oil, and feta. Middle Eastern kitchens use it in faddish. Turkish home cooks sauté it with garlic and yogurt. The flavor is mild with a pleasant, very slight tartness, and the texture is satisfying and slightly crunchy when raw. For gardeners especially, there is a practical quality to purslane that earns real respect. It grows in the hardest spots. The dry corner by the fence where nothing else survives. The edge of the gravel path. The patch of ground that bakes in full sun all afternoon. And it covers that ground, keeping whatever moisture is there from evaporating. It is doing work in places nothing else will go. You can eat it raw, sauté it, pickle it, or blend it into soups. The younger the stem, the more tender. When it flowers, small bright yellow blooms appear that are genuinely cheerful. Purslane is your summer warrior. When everything else in your garden is wilting in the heat, purslane is just getting started. Harvest the stems, put them in your salad, and appreciate a plant that does not ask for a single thing from you. Number 6. Dandelion. Every part of the dandelion is useful. The leaves are a salad green. Young dandelion leaves in early spring before the plant has flowered are tender, mildly bitter in a pleasant way, and incredibly rich in vitamins A, C, K, and B. They are higher in beta-carotene than carrots, higher in calcium than milk. These are not things you hear every day about a lawn weed, but they are true, and cultures across Europe and Asia have eaten dandelion greens for centuries as a spring tonic food after a winter of eating stored and preserved items. The flowers are edible and beautiful. They can be used to make dandelion wine, which is a tradition going back hundreds of years in England and other parts of Europe. They can be battered and fried into fritters. They can be steeped in honey. They can be floated in salads and used as a garnish that is genuinely lovely. The roots can be roasted, ground, and brewed as a coffee substitute that is naturally caffeine-free with a rich, slightly nutty, earthy flavor. In many health food stores you will find this on the shelf for a considerable price. In your yard it is free. The root has also been used in traditional herbal medicine as a gentle support for liver and digestive function for generations across many different cultures. And then there is what the dandelion does for the garden itself, which is something most people never consider. The dandelion taproot can go down 12 inches or more into the ground. It is one of nature's great deep workers. It loosens compacted clay soil. It pulls minerals, especially calcium and potassium, up from deep layers and deposits them near the surface. When it dies back, Those minerals are released where shallow-rooted plants can reach them. Dandelion is essentially performing deep aeration and natural fertilization every single season, unpaid and unasked. Those early blooming flowers? They are some of the first pollen sources available to bees in spring. At a time when almost nothing else is open, dandelion is feeding the pollinators that will go on to fertilize your fruit trees and vegetable beds weeks later. Letting dandelions bloom in a patch of grass for even 2 weeks in early spring makes a measurable difference to the bee population in your area. Dandelion is not your enemy. It is your hardest working volunteer. Eat the leaves young. Roast the roots in autumn. Let the flowers feed the bees. And when you see that bright yellow dot of color in your lawn this spring, pause before you pull it, and remember everything it is quietly doing for you. If this video gave you something new to think about, do me a favor and share it with a fellow gardener. And if you are not subscribed yet, go ahead and tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss what we put out next. Until next time, keep your hands in the earth, your eyes open, and your garden full of life. See you in the next video.